Welcome back, everybody, for episode 3 of Somebody's Son. And this time, the conversation will be with my guy, Sean, a.k.a. Red. I don't even know what other nicknames I have, but thank you for being here, my man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. As you know, Somebody's Son is a platform where we talk about parenting, fatherhood, mental health, relationships. We go through the full gamut of what it's like being a black man in today's climate. And just really appreciate you giving me your time, man, and having a conversation with us. Before we get into it, though, I got to give a shout out to Keith in the Convo Lounge once again. Y'all need to book the space. Details are below. And yeah, man, I'm excited to just get into this conversation. So before we start, why don't you give everybody, outside of you being a Bills fan, give everybody a little insight into who you are.
All right. So my name is Sean. Just recently launched my own agency about 6 months ago. It's been going well. You know, we're keeping the lights on. Originally from upstate New York. I've had a long career, going from advertising agency to corporate and back into agency life. As we know, a father to a 6-year-old girl, the middle boy to 2 sisters, one older, one younger, an uncle, a great uncle. I guess you could say I'm every type of relationship you can be to a woman at this point.
Okay, that's dope. Well, thank you for that, man. And so one thing that I like to do now, I can't wait for everyone to hear some of Chris's responses to the rapid fire questions I'm going to give you at the beginning to give people a little insight into who you are. So the first question I have for you is, if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Surf and turf with mashed potatoes. Okay.
Which superhero would you choose to be for a day?
I'm going to go Superman.
What's the most unusual item you carry with you every day?
A pistol.
Yo. Hey, we live in Pennsylvania, so there it is. If you were a hashtag, hopefully you don't become a hashtag. If you were a hashtag, what would you be?
Show respect.
What's the funniest thing that happened to you recently?
Oh, probably, I don't know. Funniest thing that's happened to me recently. I had to take the responsibility of watering my sister's plants in no directions. I don't have no green thumb. I don't know what to do. Her floor is wet.
Yo, yeah, that was funny. That happened right before we got on the road to come up here. He was 40 minutes late to do this because he couldn't figure out how to water the plant to keep the house from being aquarium. So there we go. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Like finance, like hedge funds and stuff like that. Yeah,
that's dope. I used to always want to be like a venture capitalist.
Yeah,
still might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
What is your most unusual talent?
Probably stand up.
Actually, y'all need to go look it up. What's your stage name?
There ain't no stage.
Yo, I forgot about that. That is he actually is a comedian. If you spend enough time around this dude, you will also know that all he want to do is crack jokes. So he's pretty serious right now, but that's not who he always is. If you could swap lives with any historical figure for a day, who would it be?
Barry Gorey.
Oh, all right, okay. What song best describes your work ethic?
Life is Good.
By
Drake and Future.
I love that song. It's a good song. What's the silliest fear you have? Or irrational fear?
Irrational fear, having boogers in your nose when you're speaking to somebody. And like nobody's saying anything.
Yo, they not good friends or good people.
Definitely not.
What is the most useless talent you have?
Judging people.
Yo, if animals could talk, which one would be the rudest?
Probably a giraffe. They think they're above everybody.
And so it begins. Ladies and gentlemen. And so it begins. If you were a kitchen appliance, what would you be and why?
A spatula, because I flip shit.
But that's a utensil. Is that a utensil or an appliance? What's the judges say?
Oh, that's a good point.
Second person.
Yeah, second person instead of utensil instead of an appliance. But you know what? Maybe we'll just switch the question to utensil because I like that. It is challenging, but I do like that answer. Both everyone's answers were good, but that's a good answer. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received but ignored?
Take your time. It will come.
What made you ignore that? I'm curious.
Because you always just think people are talking, and so you don't really give any validation to that. Until you're actually in the mode where the stuff that you don't see immediately happen, it ultimately does if you continue at it. So
I appreciate that. Last and final question of this get to know you round. That's what I'm gonna start calling it. If you could only keep 3 apps on your phone, which would you choose?
Waze, Chase, and probably Nike Run.
Nike Run. Okay. You been running lately?
I haven't.
I had to throw that in there. All right, yo, thank you for that. All right, so let's get into it. I think that I really was interested in talking to you because we're both fathers. We both have daughters. I mean, I have a son too, but daughters around the same age. So I thought that it would be cool to kind of talk with another man about co-parenting, dad life, especially raising daughters. I think that's a very unique experience, at least for us.
Yep.
And so yeah, that's where I kind of wanted to start. And I was interested in like, what was it like for you growing up? Did you have both parents? Was it just your mom? You know, what's young Sean's upbringing like?
Yeah. So my parents were married, but my father died when I was 8. So he died December 24th, 1992.
Wow.
Basically went into cardiac arrest. Ma was out shopping for Christmas gifts and came back to, 911 and us there with him and my older sister. So, ultimately after that, my mother never remarried. So I would say that it was a single life or a single parent household. We had my great aunt there, which was my grandfather's sister.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just me, my little sister, and my great aunt and my mother. And then my older sister, she was, there's a pretty big age gap between us. So she wasn't with us. She was out, at college or living on her own. So It was really just us.
Mm. And honestly, I think this is the first time we ever talked about it. I don't know if I've ever known that your dad passed away when you were young like that. So this is new for me too. What was that experience like for you, if you don't mind me asking? Just because we've never talked about it. I hate that it's the first time that we're having this discussion, but what was that experience like for you losing your dad at a young age?
I think when you're younger, it doesn't hit you the same way as when you're older.
Okay.
Right? You see it as like, oh man, my dad died, but you don't have the time, the experience, the advice, the moments and history with him to really understand outside of just he's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that it was interesting and it made me probably kind of gravitate more towards how they say like a man's man.
Mm-hmm.
Like that definitely was me, even though I grew up in a house full of women. Like there was probably no soft element to me. It's like I really went hardcore towards like, guys or like men culture or like following behind either my older cousins or like people I see on TV. That type of thing.
That was gonna be my next question is like, where did you then get your cues from in terms of what it looked like to be a man, how a man should carry himself, how a man should conduct himself? Because similarly, I had my uncle and my grandpa, but a lot of the cues that I got in real time, because we had some conversations, but we never really got that deep into like what it require to be a man. And then James, my stepdad at the time, he was around, but him and my mom were very off and on. So I'm curious, like, where did you pick up your cues on like, this is how you should conduct yourself. This is how you should be, moving and operate. This is how you date or court a woman.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like, I would say it was really my mother for the most part. My mother is a interesting woman. When I think about it, there's kind of like a little element of a tomboyish type of perspective to her. So she was tough, like not like too tough, but and when it came to like being a man, like as soon as my father passed away, like she would have me out like, hey, go fix the garage. It's like, I'm 9. Like I'm struggling with this. I don't know what to do. So there was like those elements where A, you see on TV, then B, kind of like where your ma's like, sending you to go do these different elements. And so I would say that those were my cues. Yeah. And then as I got older, like especially in high school, like it's in terms of dating women, it was really around the girls who I dated father, where like I remember my first junior prom, dude was like, I was walking the girl out to the car, and he was like, hey, he grabbed me and he's like, you don't let her walk next to the curb. I was like, what? Why? Like you don't, that's for ladies of the street or something like that. And then that was where I learned that. So it'll be little instances like that I always get those like elements in terms of dating. Got you. More so like fathers telling me like, you better treat my daughter right.
Right. No, that's real. That's real. I'm even thinking about it now. Like there was I'm pretty sure it was my mom, or maybe it was my uncle or my grandpa. I can't remember like who the first person was to tell me women should walk on the outside of the street, or making sure I open their doors. And I've never been a pull out a chair guy. Yeah, I won't say that I've done that. I don't even know the time and place to do that. But I definitely knew that I had to treat women with respect, because my mom would knock my head off if she found out that I went somewhere and I let somebody like open their own door. I didn't treat them like a woman should be treated. And it's interesting because I hope I'm not even sharing too much, but just because of the nature of my mom and my stepdad's relationship, it was crazy that like I found myself even, I can't even about to say this out loud, but repeating some of the same cycles. You know what I mean? Like my mom was there and always had me like, yo, I knew I should have treated women a certain way. But then because of how my homies were reacting, or like I would see something go, it's like it would go completely out the window. So tell me about like dating and relationships for you. Like, what was that like early teens into your 20s? Like, what was dating and relationships like for you? Were you a man of the streets, or were you like actually taking relationships seriously?
Never took them serious. I was a product of watching Belly, any Menace to Society, any of that. That's what I kind of got my cues from. Rap songs, like I committed to that. I committed to being, kind of this hard exterior, and you think the bros before, that having that type of scenario like that was for a long time, because that's what I saw. Like, and then of course, locker room talk is Trump called it. Like you hearing all your boys talk, and everybody is kind of like, the mission of a man is I make a joke where it's like, the mission of a man is to apply to every colleges he can get into. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the mentality for a while. And I think that, just understanding relationships, I mean, candidly speaking, I haven't even gotten to that point until probably within the recent years of understand the give and take of how to show up in a relationship. Right. The compassion, the patience, the understanding, giving people that grace. Like for me, it was like, you do something, I'm like, all right, I'm out.
You out. Yeah. I mean, I felt like it's gotten worse, because I feel like now everyone feels they have options. Like everyone can decide like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go find something else. And social media has made that happen. I remember when Facebook first came out and sending messages on Facebook and thinking, you was hot shit.
You remember the honesty box?
Yeah, yo. I mean, it's crazy. So for me, I mean, I hate to admit it, like I was not the best in some of my old relationships. Like I was terrible. And if there's so many times where the one phrase that sticks out and I will never forget is like, would you want someone to treat your daughter like that? And if the answer is no, which in those moments it probably was, it's like, man. And so now it's like, I don't need anyone to hold me accountable. I'm holding myself accountable because I was so far gone from the person I actually wanted to be. And then now having a daughter, the person that I want her to see me as, that I'm like, man, it takes so many times where I gotta like take a step back and be like, all right, I have to conduct myself differently. And I'm not always perfect. Like I still have my moments like anybody else, but it's like, man, that was a moment that really changed me. And I think too, for a really long time, I started to feel like because of the way that I treated women, that whatever I got on the back end, I almost deserved.
Yeah.
Like I felt like because I wasn't the best that, okay, I can give grace in this moment. And it wasn't really grace. It was self-sacrifice. You know what I mean? Because I felt like I was for the streets at the time. So, you know what I mean? Okay, I can get over that. You know what I mean? But it was just because I was just in a terrible space. And I really, after having these conversations, started to realize that a lot of it was from like feeling abandoned from my pop and feeling like, you know, worthless almost sometimes, like, and attaching my value and my worth to what women felt like I was. You know what I'm saying? So it's taking some work. It's taking some therapy. And I'm just happy to say that like I feel like I'm trending in a better direction. What's that journey been like for you? I know you have Tori. How is the relationship with her and her mother?
Yeah. So first, I would say this, like with Tori, I definitely recognize, you know, that overall, you call it the karma of what you've been doing. That was my biggest, once I found out I was having a girl, because I knew. When I say I knew I was having a boy, I knew. That's why her name is Tori. Like I had a unisex name. I knew. And when I heard that news, it blew my mind. Because of, you know, just how I'd been in relationships before, how I would say that it's not that I treat women bad. It's just that my tolerance for their stuff is not there. So it allowed me to exit relationships or situations or not have that like commitment to them. And so I know how punishing that could be to women. And just imagining my daughter going through that is awful.
Yeah, but to say how then do you rectify them having to put up with your stuff?
I honestly, in my head, it's like, that's your choice. That's your choice.
This dude,
and you know, you got to make decisions. Like I think there's an element because, you know, I give it to my mother. She was a very strong, independent woman. I saw one tear go down her eye when my father passed, and I'm pretty sure she had hard moments outside of me, but I never saw that. And so I always saw a woman in a different light, like all this like soft creature type of thing.
Yeah,
that's not what I saw. My mom was beating that ass, like she like, I got slave beatings as I grew up, and so it was hard to see women. So like some of that like softness and that gentleness you need to have with them, I ain't had that because I didn't see women in that light, because my mother was strong, independent, not strong, independent. I say it on Instagram, but strong, independent, like for real. Like I ain't bringing no dudes around my kids. I don't need to replace. I'm going to take care of all of this. I'm going to take care of, you know, this elderly woman, these two kids who are active in sports. I'm going to make all that. So it's hard to give that grace for women to say, well, when they're putting up with my stuff, my expectation is that you're an adult, so you need to choose. You cut it off. That's my head.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand that. I can understand where you come from with that point. I think too, my mom was a strong woman, and so there are a lot of times where I'm like, I don't subscribe to what everyone is saying about how women feel, because like you said, I've never seen that. I've only know the women that I've seen around me have always been like go get it and make it happen. And so a lot of the cues that I got was from that. I'm not used to that either, but I also realized too that like there is an element of what I was looking for in women is what I needed. And so I was projecting a lot of like my desires and the things that I wanted that I didn't get because I had a mother who was also hard body onto the women I was now dating. I was finding myself like I needed them to show up a certain way, and I was expecting that because of what my experience was like. So I level with you there and I understand it. I think my approach was just like, expecting it, whereas you're saying it's a, y'all are adults and y'all are consistent adults and making a choice.
I think one thing about me, probably, and we got to, because I'm figuring out through therapy, I think the reality is I never dealt with my father's death. So I think ultimately I've always seen people as temporary in your life because he died at so early.
Wow, that's deep.
I kind of can build that wall where it's like, you may be here one day, but you would be gone the next. And so that's how I look at the relationship. So I guess I don't lend myself to have those feelings where you care so much and you're protected because you want to protect this relationship because you're in it versus like, yo, all right, this person's cool, shows love, just like my pops was.
Yeah.
But then he was gone. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah, that's heavy. I mean, I can understand that perspective. Like I really could understand how, especially when you're making all these connections and you're making not even judgments, you're deciding on how you want to move with things throughout the rest of your life from a very young age. So the connection to those things, I can imagine how they could linger. I'm wondering, one, talk to me about like what led you to, if you don't mind, talk to me about what led you to want to engage in therapy. And then how has therapy either opened your mind up to or shifted some of your perspectives as it relates to your relationships with yourself, with women, and then I definitely want to talk about like how that's trickled down to even your relationship with your daughter.
Yeah. Therapy, I think, is good because it's just like everybody says, it's your muscle or your brain is a muscle, just like your body. And I don't know if you know, I'm a lifetime member at the gym. You know what I mean? I like to get in there. And so I want to apply that same thought pattern to my brain and just my mental, right? It's one thing about taking care of your physical health, but how do you, become the best way of yourself and apply that towards your mental. So that's been a key reason why I've looked at therapy. I would say what it's taught me is just kind of letting a lot out. Right. I've always kept a lot close to my chest. We was always taught, don't have your business out in these streets.
100%.
Don't be running and telling household stuff and, don't talk to people. And so with that carries a lot of heaviness when you hold all that inside. So I think the first thing was being able to release all that in a safe space. So that was the first part about therapy. And then the other part was just starting to question the weight I put on stuff, right? Is this really a big deal? What does this mean in the grand scheme of things? Are you being too hard on yourself? That type of thing. And I would say, the other part that it's helped me do is try to establish these two pillars within my life. I try to look at life can be basically executed in two ways, right? Through discipline and appreciation. So discipline is your output, right? How you behave and what you do. You have control over that. And then your input, appreciating everything that you receive and that you become aware of and being able to react to that. And if you have appreciation for it, I think if you have appreciation and discipline, you live a more balanced life.
No, I feel that. It's interesting because I use a lot of the same terminology. Like everything for me is inputs and outputs. So I definitely, that resonates with me too. How has that then helped to shape your relationship now with your daughter and then her mom? Actually, let me take a step back. What is it like co-parenting for you? Because that's something that I don't think guys really get a chance to talk about a lot.
I think honestly, if you look at the grand schemes of co-parenting, I have a good situation. Good meaning that it's not perfect and it's not completely unsalvageable or like it's inoperable. So I think that's a good co-parenting situation. Regardless, it's balanced. It's there's been times where it's rough and there's times where it's great. I think the good part about our co-parenting situation is my daughter gets to see two different walks of life, two different professions, two different family styles. I mean, everybody does, but the fact is that we are united enough where she can come where my daughter's mom and my daughter can be in the same spot around my family, and then vice versa. And so it's good for that, I think, for Tori to see. The other thing I would say is, it pushes you to get out your comfort zone, right? So our co-parenting has really been about really focusing in on communication. That's been I would say like the dynamic. Like if anything that we look at trying to improve or we zero in on is communication. And so yeah, I would say that's a pretty good relationship or whatever.
No, that's good because the communication part is can be challenging. I mean, even now, like Henry's mom has a boyfriend now, and navigating that was a lot. Sean has been around since Henny was a little over 1. So it's like trying to enmesh all these lives together and then throwing Rue in the mix too. It's like, it's a lot. It could be a lot.
Yeah.
What is then what has been your biggest adjustment as a parent? What's the biggest adjustment you've had to make?
Let go, control. One thing I always give my mother credit for is she instilled knock out your goals, compete. You know what I mean? Make sure you show up the best way you can. And it's almost like, making sure that you're getting this outside validation. You want your external brand to be, in a good light. The biggest adjustment is you don't have control. You can't control what my daughter does. I can teach. And I think being able to teach and let go, right? She has the ability to what's the word I'm looking for? She has the ability to apply the lessons. That's her choice. You've got to be able to let go to give her the choice to apply what you want to, that your teachings or what have you. And so that's the biggest adjustment, because for me, you have a controlled discipline, like this is what you're going to do, da-da-da-da-da-da, but you can't do that with other people. And especially when they getting smarter and smarter by the day.
Man, they humble you every step of the way. It's like just when you think you got to one up, they come right back with some realness.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's the part that I enjoy the most, is like with kids, there's no filter. Like they're going to say how they feel, and it's up to us then to decide how we want to engage with it. You know what I mean? Whether we want to take it on the chin, or for me, a lot of stuff I laugh off. I'm just like, that was actually pretty good. That was pretty good. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about like career-wise and how you've been able to kind of like maintain or find your like sense of self in the work that you do. And how you've been able to maintain your cool. Like, so for me, when I look at you, like you're someone that I look up to. Like you're like a big brother to me. I don't know if you know that. Even though we're peers, like I know that there's a lot of experience that you had that I can, learn from, benefit off of, that I don't have to necessarily experience myself. So I'm wondering, like in work, what has been the biggest challenge in terms of like maintaining personal fulfillment while still going after success in whatever way that means to you?
Look, man, that's a great question. I would say that I'm still learning that balance, because the personal fulfillment is one thing, going after success is another.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes one can come without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You could be personally satisfied with just working or doing, kind of a basic job that is 9 to 5, and literally 9 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and you personally fulfilled because you're getting paid, you're able to provide, you got health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
so you're good, and you're not necessarily looking to climb up the ladder. My focus has always been that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So you put so much emphasis on those next steps, and what are you doing next, how are you going to get the next thing? And so I would say that was what made me successful, but also at the same time also threw off some of the personal fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
because I would find myself having to kind of put some of my values away to try to grab that next step. Especially working within corporate or working for someone. I think the biggest thing with personal fulfillment is what I'm doing now,
Mm-hmm.
which is taking everything that I learned and going out and stepping out on my own.
Yeah.
And being able to put more time towards my daughter, right? Or being able to put more time towards my health and working out.
Yeah.
That's where I feel that personal fulfillment has come, where right now I'm definitely not making the same amount of money I was before.
Yeah.
But I have more time, I have more freedom, and that's where I feel like that both success of launching your own thing, but then also being personally satisfied with myself.
Got you. No, I like that. So then how would you then, what is your definition of success?
Freedom.
Okay.
Freedom. I think it's the ability to operate in a way that you want to, and you don't necessarily have limitations. You don't have hard limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get to decide what your limitations are.
I like that. This also just came right off the dome. Take away the work, take away being a dad, take away any of like the accolades you've had. Who is Sean?
Sean is I would say Sean's a jackass. But he cares about people.
No.
Like I think I have I think I have a care for people that goes deeper than what could come off in the surface. I think they see some of my my personality, my jokes, are just my nonchalant how do you say that word?
Nonchalantness.
Yeah.
Or
So
being nonchalant.
Yeah. They could see it as like I don't.
I probably just made that up.
So they could see it as like me not caring, but I do care. I care for the success and the happiness of other people more than what others know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say I have a big heart. I'm a fierce protector as well. Like, there's like, I'll let stuff go, but when you start dipping on to either people I care about, or like when I see that intentional hurt, you'll see an animal come out.
No, I will agree. I mean, I think that you definitely have. I feel like you have a throwback style and approach to the way you go about things. No, for real, because like when I was growing up, we talk trash, but it was simply we just talking trash. Like, at the end of the day, if you weren't bidding on somebody or you weren't in the mix, you probably just wasn't even in the conversation. Now, was that the best way to go about things? Probably not. You know what I mean? Now, there's some feelings that are probably hurt. I mean, in every joke, there's a little bit of truth. So, like, I know that it probably ruffled some feathers along the way, but that was the way that we were reared too. Like, it was like, you know what I mean? We were talking trash, but it was generally because we love you.
Yeah.
And if we weren't, then it's just like, you probably didn't want to be there. Like, you weren't in the mix, and we could have found better ways to go about it. But that was what we grew up. That's how we grew up in.
Yeah.
we not even almost at time, but I'm curious if you could go back to yourself at 18 and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Stay on your own path. It was funny. I mean, I hate admitting this, but I definitely had some nice little troubles when I was younger. I wasn't scared of a little bit of trouble, and I think that the trouble wasn't for me. The trouble was me building this outside brand or trying to be something to other people, and that messed that you know gave me some setbacks in doing so. So that would be the one thing that I would say is like, go to your own beaten path and recognize you know what's right and wrong. That's the reality. Everybody knows what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
But you choose or you take that risk to say, let me go do the wrong thing. Hopefully the worst thing doesn't happen.
Right. I mean, I jokingly say you can't get through this unscathed.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anyone that has achieved any level of anything without a little tweaking the rules here and there. I mean, I tell them, rules are made to be broken all the time. I mean, I don't know if that's probably the best thing to instill in a 7 and 3-year-old.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. Like, I'm like, there's always gonna be rules. You know what I mean? But everyone finds their way through them, around them sometimes.
I like to say, know the rules enough to bend them.
Yeah, there it is.
All right.
I have a couple more questions. One, what is your favorite thing about being a dad?
The unconditional love that you receive. There's nothing better than providing for somebody, and pouring into them and seeing them grow. The other thing that I think is you seeing you, like little elements of you in there, and you like, and with a little girl, you'd be like, oh God,
yeah,
oh God, but it's good. It's funny to see. So
and you
yeah,
can also like, I think it's easier to navigate certain things because it's like, I know exactly what you're doing. Like, stop.
Exactly.
What has been the biggest difference between how you were raised and how you raise your daughter?
Oof. I give her the rationale of why. I did not grow up with a why.
Yeah.
And my thing is I felt I rebelled because I didn't know why. I'm not saying I would have listened after I would have heard the rationale, but I tell myself that, and that's the prime reason. What I try to do is any type of discipline or limitations I put on her, I'm saying this is why.
Right.
I really, really, really think it's important to give Black children that space. It was funny. I was thinking about like in corporate and like giving the kid a chance to speak their mind or ask questions.
Absolutely.
Because the other counterparts that we going against, they do that. We made fun of that coming up. We made fun of oh, look at how they. But the reality is, what that did was that made these kids more confident when they came into the world. And so I go back to JP, in my life there. One of the biggest things, I came in through this leadership program, and I'll never forget, I was tasked with finding out something. Yeah. And when you learn corporate, you learn that basically you have a whole bunch of gatekeepers that's going to tell you no, because there's some sort of process that probably could be broken, or there's something that can be adjusted for you to get what you want to get done.
Right.
I was asked to go find out something, and the gatekeeper was like, no. I was like, oh, okay. I went back, and I remember telling my manager at the time, I was like, yeah, well, they said no. He said, what do you mean they said no? So they said no. He's like, why? I was like, because their process. He's like, what part of the process? I'm like, their process. So you don't know why? No, they said no.
Right.
And to see the disappointment.
Yeah.
So that's something that my goal is, to be able to pour, so you know the rationale, you question stuff, so you have an understanding. Yeah,
I mean, like you said, it's conditioned in us to just kind of take what we're given and be grateful for what we have. And the example I have is just a doctor's office example, where the little kid was asking the doctor questions about like what was going on and why they need to be there. And it's so many times where we limit our kids without even realizing how big of a limitation we're putting on them that early on by not just allowing them to speak and think and just be the little humans that they are. My mom said in our interview how we were all wild kids. Well, me and my brother in particular were wild kids, and my kids are definitely, I mean, they're definitely that way. So it's interesting to see, and it's like I'm grateful for them to be able to ask those questions because, like you said, they don't get out into the world, and if the first person that says no and they just take it, they're done. You know what I mean? So having them get those reps in early and understand that they're not being disrespectful or rude. If they're being disrespectful, check it. But if it's genuinely a question to help them better understand what's going on, I have no problem taking my time to answer it. Now it is annoying sometimes. I will never lie. Because sometimes I don't feel like it, but I also try to remind myself in those moments that they didn't ask to be here. And so I try my best to just show up for them to be the best I can. There was one other thing. Oh, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody's son, somebody's daughter, anyone out there, what would be the one piece of advice you would want to leave them with for, let's say for 2024? What's your word or mantra for this year?
Don't be afraid to acknowledge and apologize.
I like that.
Yeah. It was one of the things, like even with my daughter, I raised my voice at her or what have you. And I think one of the things that I kind of patted myself on the back as I grabbed her and I'm like, look, I'm sorry I raised my voice.
Yeah.
This is why. And I apologize. I shouldn't be doing that. I need to work on that. So I'm letting you know, saying this to a 6-year-old, but still acknowledge, apologize, and kind of do better going forward.
Man, that's such a big lesson. That came up too in the last one. I have to apologize. And that's something I want to get to a point where I'm not doing things I need to apologize for, but we're all human beings. So, it's, again, those are reps though that you're getting in early that now when they make a mistake, they'll understand that they need to apologize or how to fix it. Now, I don't want them to be doormats, right? Where now they're just apologizing for every little thing. But if they genuinely hurt someone or they genuinely do someone or someone feels wronged by them, that they do have the ability and wherewithal to say, you know what? I apologize for that. So that's good. I like that. And with that being said, man, thank you for your time, man. I think we touched a variety of topics. I think we got a lot in. If there's anyone that has any questions or anything like that, please send them in. And where can everybody find you at? I didn't do that last time. Where your handles?
My Instagram is trash, but it's Sean _Travori, TRAVORI SEAN, Sean. And that's the only social I have. I'm not doing TikTok.
I just got on TikTok. I'm not mad at it.
Is it because of where the company was founded?
That one he couldn't help himself. He had to get it in there. We done. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Oh, we might as well do the thing. All right, man. Episode 3 is a wrap. That was good.